you guys. So today we're going to be talking about operations with integers. So we're going to look at how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with our set of integers. So the first thing we're going to look at is adding integers. So we've got a rule for adding integers to help us out if we don't have a calculator. So the first rule is if the signs are the same, so two positives or two negatives, then we're going to find the sum of the two numbers. And we're going to just ignore the signs at that point. And then after we add the two numbers together, we'll take back the original sign. So if we had two positives, we add them together and make it a positive at the end. If we have two negatives, we add the negative numbers together and make it a negative at the end. And then if the signs are different, we're going to find the difference, which means we're going to subtract them. And when we do that, we're just going to pretend like the positives and negatives aren't there. And then at the very end, after we've subtracted, to get the sign for our final answer, we're going to look at the bigger number, and that's going to tell us what the sign needs to be. So if we look at a couple of examples, first we have negative 23 plus 18. So going back to our rules, the signs are different, so we're going to find the difference. So we're going to subtract the two numbers, and we always do the biggest number minus the smaller number. So 23 minus 18, and we're going to do this by hand. So we start on the right column and do 3 minus 8. Well, to do that, we need to borrow from our first column and make this a 13. And then 13 minus 8 is 5. All right, next we come over to our second column. 1 minus 1 is 0, so we don't write anything there. So we've got a 5. But negative 23 plus 18 is not 5 because the bigger number shows the sign. Well, the bigger number was negative 23. 23 was bigger, so we bring that negative down and get the answer is negative 5. All right? Next, we have negative 87 plus negative 19. So this time, the signs are the same, so we're going to find the sum. So we're going to add 87 plus 19, and we're just ignoring the negatives for right now. So if we add the right column, 7 plus 9 is 16, so we bring down the 6 and carry the 1. 8 plus 1 plus 1 is 10. So we get 106, but remember, if the signs are the same, we find the sum, then we need to take back the original sign. So since both of these were negative, our final answer is going to be negative. So we get negative 106. And finally, we have 76 plus negative 31. This time the signs are different, so we're going to find the difference. So 76 minus 31. Starting in the right column, 6 minus 1 is 5, and then 7 minus 3 is 4. So we have 45. We need to check the sign of the bigger number. So here the bigger number was 76, which is positive. So that tells us our answer also needs to be positive. So 45 would be our final answer. So that's adding with integers. Now we're going to look at subtracting integers. So to subtract integers, we're going to change the subtraction sign into adding a negative. So that then we can go back and use the same rules that we just did when we added integers. So for example, if we had negative 4 minus 11, we're going to change the subtraction sign into adding a negative. So that subtraction changed into plus a negative number. So that way then we can follow the same rules we just had. So if we look at some examples, starting with negative 6 minus negative 17, we're going to keep the first number the same, but then we're going to change the subtraction in the middle to adding a negative. So plus, negative, and then our other number was negative 17. So plus, negative, negative 17. So now we've got these two negatives right next to each other. A negative just makes it the opposite. So if we've got two negatives, the opposite of negative 17 is going to be positive 17. So we have negative 6 plus 17. Then if we go back to our rules for addition, if the signs are different, we're going to find the difference. So we're going to do 17 minus 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 minus 0 is 1. So we have 11. And then the bigger number shows us the sign. So the bigger number here is 17, which is positive, so our answer is going to be positive. Next, we have 16 minus 8, and this is just a normal subtraction problem like you've seen all your life. But we're going to still follow those same rules to show that it still works. So we're going to change the subtraction into adding a negative 8. So instead of minus 8, it became plus negative 8. And then we use those same rules for addition. So the signs here are different, so we're going to find the difference. So 16 minus 8. Well, 16 minus 8 is 8. And then looking back up here, the bigger number tells us what sign the 8 needs to be. Well, the bigger number up here is 16, which is positive, so our 8 would be positive. And you could just do 16 minus 8 pretty quickly, but this is just to show you that those same rules will still work. And finally, we have negative 24 minus 19. So when we have negative 24 minus 19, we're going to follow our rules for subtraction, which tell us to change the subtraction into adding a negative. So instead of minus 19, we change it to plus negative 19, so we can use our rules for addition. So in this case, the signs are the same, so we're going to find the sum. So 24 plus 19. 9 plus 4 is 13. We carry the 1. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. So that gives us 43. But before we finish, we have to remember, after we find the sum, we need to take back the original sign. So the original sign was negative, so our final answer also needs to be negative. So we get negative 43. All right, so that was adding and subtracting with integers. Next, let's look at multiplying and dividing integers. And multiplying and dividing follow the same rules. So if we have the same sign, our answer is always positive. So a positive times a positive is always going to give us a positive. And a negative times a negative is always going to give us a positive. All right? So if it's two numbers with the same sign, you always get a positive. When you're multiplying or dividing, the only way to get a negative is if you have a different sign. So if you have a positive times a negative, then your answer could be negative. So let's look at some examples. And these are all multiplication, but it would work the same way with division. So we have negative 14 times 22, so we're going to multiply those together. And since they're both negative, the final answer is going to be positive. So starting over here, 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. We put in a placeholder 0 when we do our next row. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. We add these together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. We carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. So we get 308, but remember, negative times a negative is positive, so we're good. There's no sign changing to do at the end. Next, we have 19 times 67. So first we're going to multiply, then we're going to check the sign. So 9 times 7 is 63. We carry the 6. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 plus 6 is 13. We add a placeholder 0, and I'm going to cross out the 6 that we carried so I don't accidentally use it again. 9 times 6 is 54. Carry the 5. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus 5 is 11. Then we add these together. 3 plus 0 is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. 1 plus 1 is 2. And we bring down the 1. And then since we had different signs, a positive and a negative, our final answer is going to be negative. All right, we've got one more to do. 53 times 9. So if we start by multiplying, 9 times 3 is 27. Bring down the 7, carry the 2. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 plus 2 is 47. So we get 477. Both of our original numbers were positive. So since they had the same sign, our final answer is positive. So we leave it at 477. All right, that is operations with integers. So negative and positive numbers. Let me know if you've got any questions, y'all. Have a great day.